I never imagined the morning light filtering through my Brooklyn apartment window would feel so heavy, as if each golden beam were weighing on my shoulders. I sat at the edge of my bed, heart hammering, wondering how I'd gotten here about to walk into my first day as assistant manager of a sleek, newly opened cafe in Manhattan. My siblings had scoffed when I told them I was applying. "You'd feel awkward," my younger brother had said, flopping onto the couch with his phone in hand. "You're great with family, but a professional kitchen, come on." My older sister just rolled her eyes. "Let someone with more experience take it," she'd added. I'd laughed along, pretending their teasing didn't sting, but inside, I wasn't laughing at all. I'd dreamt of leading a team, crafting customer experiences, and building something of my own. I had the degree, the internships, the passion, but family opinions had a way of planting seeds of doubt. Still, when I saw the cafe's job posting late last month, something inside me ignited. I polished my resume until each bullet point gleamed and rehearsed interview answers, until my reflection nodded back in approval. Tonight, I'd report for duty. And despite my trembling confidence, I was determined to prove my siblings wrong. The train ride into the city felt surreal. The rattling metal wheels and distant announcements echoed my racing thoughts. At 25, I'd moved around so much: college in Ohio, internships in Chicago, friends scattered across the country, but New York was home. I'd grown accustomed to its fierce energy, the way every passerby seemed to carry untold stories. By the time I reached Herald Square, I was both exhilarated and terrified. The cafe was only a short walk away, its minimalist glass facade reflecting sharp morning sunlight. I adjusted my blazer, checked my reflection one last time in a storefront window, and stepped inside. The interior was immaculate, white subway tiles contrasting with warm wooden accents, potted ferns perched on high shelves, and a neatly arranged pastry display shining under spotlights. A soft instrumental playlist drifted through the space. I could feel my pulse in my throat as I approached the hostess stand. Moments later, the general manager appeared, tall, confident, sporting an impeccably tailored suit. He greeted me by name. That's when I noticed the small laminated roster clipped to the stand, my name printed clearly under assistant manager. My chest tightened. This wasn't just another internship or part-time gig. It was real. "Welcome, Sarah," he said, extending his hand. "We're thrilled to have you on board." I forced a steady smile, shaking his hand firmly, trying to ignore the tremor in my palm. As he introduced me to the rest of the morning staff, baristas, line cooks, hosts, I noticed they were younger and older than me, veterans and newcomers alike. They all buzzed with polite enthusiasm. But I detected flickers of surprise when they heard my title. Perhaps they expected someone with a dozen years of experience, someone older, or someone who'd climbed the ranks elsewhere. But here I was, fresh-faced, a little wayward Brooklyn girl who'd answered a Craigslist ad just 3 weeks ago. I swallowed hard, determined to own this role. My siblings' voices echoed in my mind. "You'd feel awkward." Sure, they meant well, worried I'd be out of my depth, but I had told them exactly why I wanted this job. I wanted the challenge, I craved the responsibility, and I refused to let their doubts define me. By mid-morning, I was thrust into action. A rush of customers poured in, office workers from nearby towers grabbing lattes and avocado toast, elderly couples chatting over scones, college students cramming for exams. I coordinated with the baristas, monitored pastry restocks, and handled a complaint about a lukewarm cappuccino as my manager briefed me on inventory protocols. Every instruction felt like a lifeline, guiding me through uncharted waters. The cafe's schedule demanded precision. Shifts had to start on the hour. Ingredients tracked mercilessly, sales targets met daily. My heart pounded with adrenaline, but I could feel my confidence solidifying with each resolved issue. I reminded myself I'd prepared for this: case studies in hospitality management, volunteer projects organizing bake sales, summer work at my aunt's diner. I might not have corporate pedigree, but I had grit, initiative, and creativity. I repositioned a display of croissants, suggested a mid-session menu tweak, and updated the digital bulletin with today's specials. When the manager gave me a nod of approval, I nearly exhaled a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Lunchtime brought a brief lull. I found a quiet corner behind the counter. Clutching a matcha latte I barely tasted, my tablet sat open on the schedule sheet, and I reviewed staffing for the afternoon. My mind wandered back to Brooklyn, my tiny living room where my siblings lounged, debating my life choices. My brother, always sarcastic, had asked whether I'd tackle angry customers with the same zeal I used to dodge family game night at Monopoly. My sister, protective and slightly cynical, warned that management was more politics than passion. I'd shot back that leadership was about empathy and organization, not just power plays. They'd laughed, offered resigned smiles as if expecting my inevitable return home hat in hand. I realized then how much their doubt had fueled my determination. I'd stepped into this cafe not just for me, but to prove that a 25-year-old woman from a modest background could rise to the challenge, orchestrate a team, and deliver results. The afternoon rush approached again. I straightened my blazer, took a deep breath, and mapped out my priorities. Reorder almond milk before it ran out. Oversee barista training for a new seasonal drink. Check that our tip jar met the daily minimum protocols I'd memorized the night before, scribbled on sticky notes plastered around my apartment. My manager caught my eye and raised an eyebrow, a silent question. Ready? I nodded. As the door swung open and the line snaked toward the counter, I felt a surge of clarity. This was where I belonged, no longer the doubtful sister, the uncertain applicant. I was now the assistant manager in that instant. I understood that awkwardness was a fleeting emotion, easily dispelled by competence and resolve. I squared my shoulders, exchanged a confident smile with my team, and greeted our first customer of the afternoon. My siblings thought I'd feel out of place, yet here I was, at the very center of the action, my name shining on the manager's list for all to see, and I wouldn't trade this moment for anything. I watched the last customer's reflection fade from the glass doors as their footsteps reverberated down the street, and the evening sun dipped behind Manhattan's rooftops. The hush that settled across the cafe felt almost ceremonial, a reward for the team's relentless energy during two busy shifts. I exhaled the breath I didn't realize I'd been holding and let my shoulders drop as warmth from the ovens radiated through the kitchen archway. Outside, a stray breeze rattled a menu board, carrying distant car horns and murmured conversations. I ran a hand through my hair, wiping a smudge of flour from my cheek. It struck me that this space, so meticulously illuminated by vintage Edison bulbs and lined with potted ferns, had become my responsibility. I surveyed my crew resetting bar stations and restocking napkins, feeling a swell of pride I hadn't expected. Here, I was no longer an uneasy assistant. I was their leader. Just as I let myself savor that quiet triumph, the phone behind the counter buzzed insistently. It was our supplier, calling to say the almond milk delivery had been delayed indefinitely due to a warehouse mishap. I pressed the receiver to my ear, heart sinking as I listened to the stock clerk's apology. We were already running low on all dairy alternatives crucial for our health-conscious clientele, and tomorrow's brunch crowd would descend hungry for avocado toast and oat milk lattes. My palms grew slick with sweat as I jotted down notes and asked for an updated ETA. The supplier promised a resolution by tomorrow afternoon, but that left the morning unaccounted for. I thanked them and replaced the handset, turning to Jenna, whose eyes widened when she saw my expression. Without missing a beat, I rallied her to switch 3 upcoming orders to coconut milk and adjust our specials board accordingly. We consulted the remaining inventory, redistributed stock among stations, and rewrote the morning prep guide on the digital display. In management, I realized contingency was king. A few hours later, as dust painted purple streaks across the sky, I discovered the espresso machine leaking near the portafilter, a nightmare scenario. Minutes before the evening rush, steam hissed, and the metal whisper joined the rhythm of a ticking clock, urgent and unforgiving. Marcus tinted the back area blue with panic, signaling me for guidance. I dropped my clipboard, wiped my palm on my blazer, and crouched beside the machine. I located the source, a cracked seal that would require a replacement part we didn't have on site. I recalled my junior internship at a bakery where I'd learned basic equipment upkeep. I replaced a rubber gasket then, praying the new DIY fix would hold. I radioed for our part-time repair technician, promising the baristas I'd keep the line moving. We switched to our manual lever espresso maker, an antique piece we'd kept as decor, and I coached Jenna on tweaking grind settings to compensate for the altered pressure. The first shot pulled slowly, the crema a bit flatter than usual, but it was serviceable. Patrons queued, oblivious to the crisis we'd averted with quick thinking and teamwork. As the line stretched toward the entrance, a local food blogger shuffled in, camera in hand. She'd scheduled a tasting for our opening week and now was here, flashlight lens ready to scan our space. I greeted her personally, extending a token of our gratitude, a sampler flight of our signature beverages. She smiled, her lens clicking as she documented cappuccinos artfully dusted with cinnamon, matcha steeped with fresh whisked foam, and chai lattes drizzled with spiced honey. I felt a flash of nervous pride. This visit could mean social media buzz and a surge of afternoon patrons throughout the tasting. I narrated our story, how we sourced beans from a fair trade cooperative, baked in-house pastries each morning according to age-old recipes, and tailored our menu to celebrate neighborhood tastes. She nodded appreciatively, complimenting our attention to detail. When she lingered on my introduction, she's the youngest assistant manager I've met. She raised an eyebrow as though surprised. I shrugged, lyrical and cautious. then invited her behind the counter for an up-close view of our operations. Back in the rear prep area, I caught my breath and checked my phone. It was a group chat notification from my siblings. My brother had sent a gif of someone clapping slowly, tacked alongside a curt "Congrats, boss babe." My sister's text read, "Saw you on at the Chronicle, nice work." A rush of warmth filled me. They probably never imagined I could juggle inventory snaffus, equipment malfunctions, and high-stakes publicity all before dinner. I typed a quick thank you, adding a playful jab that I'd save them seats for tomorrow's latte art demo. It felt strange and wonderful to hear their pride through a glowing screen. I realized how far I'd come since that morning, when their doubt echoed in my head like an unwanted soundtrack. Now, I was writing my own theme music, dynamic, unpredictable, and entirely my own. I pocketed my phone as the air around me grew fragrant with freshly ground coffee and baked brioche, a testament to resilience and resourcefulness. By the time the blogger departed with a promise to publish her review by week's end, the cafe had settled into its evening cadence. Low lanterns glowed over tabletops where couples chatted softly, and freelancers tapped away on laptops beside half-drunk lattes. I reviewed tomorrow's roster, shifted resources to cover a late-night inventory audit, and laid out a training plan for new hires shadowing Jenna. Despite my exhaustion, a sense of exhilaration coursed through me. This role tested every facet of my skill set: organization, communication, creativity, and most crucially, resilience under pressure. As I flipped off the main lights and locked the door with Marcus, he gave me a thumbs up. "You killed it tonight, boss," he said, clapping me on the back. I laughed, the sound surprisingly unlabored, and we walked into the cool Manhattan night, my name etched in his tone like a medal of honor. The city pulsed around us, alive with possibility and promise. I knew the real challenge was only beginning, but I was ready. In the glow of streetlights, I recognized that each trial had sharpened my conviction. I belonged here with empathy, grit. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the cafe's front windows in soft, golden streams that danced across tables. I arrived early, my fingers tracing the familiar grooves on the polished oak counter as I turned on the espresso machine, its hiss greeting me like an old friend. The aroma of freshly ground beans filled the air, mingling with the faint sweetness of yesterday's brioche still warm in the display case. I flipped open the digital schedule and reviewed today's agenda: a weekend brunch service packed with reservations, a local podcast recording slated for mid-morning, and a training workshop on customer engagement for the new baristas. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and whispered to myself, "Let's do this." Moments like these, quiet but brimming with anticipation, were my favorite. The calm before the delicious storm of orders, laughter, and the occasional crisis that tested every ounce of my resourcefulness. By 9 a.m., the cafe buzzed to life. Jenna and Marcus arrived, already in motion, wiping down counters and arranging pastries under glass clocks. I greeted them with a cheerful nod and handed out name tags for the 3 new hires shadowing our team today. One was a college student majoring in hospitality, another, a young dad returning to work after starting a family, the third, an artist looking for a flexible side gig. Their varied backgrounds warmed my heart. I'd always believed a diverse team enriched the cafe's vibe and helped us connect with an equally diverse clientele. As I explained our customer-first philosophy, I caught each of them smiling, nodding along as I demonstrated the art of steaming milk just so, guiding the pitcher's angle until a velvety microfoam formed. Teaching reminded me of my own doubts back when I'd learned these skills, and I felt pride ripple through me at the thought that I was now the one passing on knowledge, helping others overcome the same uncertainties I'd conquered. Mid-morning brought the Brew and Chat, a local podcast spotlighting small businesses. I met the host at a corner table, a charismatic interviewer with a warm voice and an easy laugh. She wanted to explore what made our cafe special, from our fair trade sourcing to the way we personalized each customer's experience. I told her about the almond milk crisis, the espresso machine meltdown, and how those moments had forged camaraderie and trust among us. I shared stories of overheard customer conversations, how a frantic bride-to-be found solace in our peppermint hot chocolate before her wedding rehearsal, or how an elderly patron scribbled poetry on napkins while sipping Earl Grey lattes. The host leaned forward, eyes bright. "You're not just running a cafe," she said. "You're cultivating community." The compliment sank in, warming me more than any latte ever could. I realized then that success wasn't measured only in sales numbers or positive reviews, but in the small, human moments we orchestrated every single day. As brunch service kicked off, a line curled out the door. Umbrellaed families and fashionable freelancers alike waiting eagerly for our avocado toast and house blend cold brew. I rotated between stations, filling in wherever needed pulling, espresso shots, topping sordo with heirloom tomatoes and microgreens, and fielding walk-in reservations when our hostess stepped out for a break. When a family of 4 arrived with a toddler in tow, the little girl burst into tears at the sight of whipped cream on her hot chocolate. I scooped her onto my hip and asked which drawing she'd like on top, a heart, a star, or a smiley face. She chose a smiley face, and when I handed it back, her tears turned to delighted giggles. Her parents mouthed a silent thank you, and I felt a surge of joy so potent I had to step back for a second, leaning against the counter and closing my eyes. In that moment, I understood the real power I held to transform someone's morning, even in the smallest way. By early afternoon, the podcast segment had been recorded, and we welcomed the video crew for an impromptu behind-the-scenes feature. They captured Jenna's latte art, Marcus's crackling ring on the register as he tallied up orders, and me debriefing the new hires on inventory best practices. I felt my heart race as the camera lens zoomed in on my face, but I didn't shy away. Instead, I engaged with genuine enthusiasm, discussing our upcoming fall menu brainstorm and inviting viewers to suggest their favorite seasonal flavors. Afterward, the producer whispered that they'd been impressed by my clarity and warmth under pressure. It felt surreal to be complimented for the very qualities my siblings had once dismissed as insufficient for real management. I tucked the praise into my mental pocket as fuel for the next challenge. Late afternoon brada. Lull, I slipped outside onto the sidewalk to catch a breath, leaning against the building as a gentle breeze tugged at my hair. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from my sister. Booked a table for tomorrow, it read. Mom and Dad are coming to see their favorite manager in action. My chest tightened with a mix of excitement and nerves. I typed back, can't wait. Will save you my best latte art. My mother had always been my biggest champion, sending care packages of homemade granola and encouraging notes, while my father had taught me how to troubleshoot simple mechanical issues on old furniture. I realized that sharing this journey with them would complete a circle, no longer the kid trying to prove herself on a whim, but the capable professional leading a team and shaping an experience for an entire neighborhood. When closing time approached, the crew worked seamlessly, wiping down surfaces, counting the day's receipts, and restocking supplies for tomorrow. I double-checked the inventory order I'd sent, ensuring extra oat milk and a fresh supply of croissant dough. I updated our team chat with tomorrow's highlights, podcast air date, sister's visit, and a reminder for the new hires to arrive 15 minutes early. Before locking the doors, I paused in the empty cafe, the soft interior lights casting long shadows. I breathed in the lingering scent of coffee grounds and vanilla pastries, letting it settle into my bones. This place was more than a job. It was the living tapestry of my dreams, stitched together by every lesson I'd learned, every risk I'd taken, and every moment I showed up, even when my confidence wavered. Walking home that evening, my footsteps echoed against the pavement as the city lights blinked on one by one. I thought about the journey from my siblings' doubting words to my name shining on the manager's list, first printed, then spoken, and now lived. The doubts had become threads in my story, weaving texture into the fabric of my success. And tomorrow, when my family sat at the table I'd reserved for them, I would watch their faces glow with pride, knowing that the awkwardness they'd feared had become the foundation of my strength. At 25, I was just getting started, but already, I understood that leadership wasn't about avoiding discomfort, it was about stepping into it, time and again, until every challenge felt like home.